you have to know just with the utmost confidence that okay, I'm taking a major leap here and going away from what I know is guaranteed income and guaranteed benefits to say the
Yes.
only way this is going to work is by me putting in this work full time. And even though you would think that the hours, as far as when I used to say before, I didn't have enough hours in a day
That's
because of
right.
work.
That's
Yeah,
right.
well, now I have none because it's a full day process.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sandy Adams Show. All you listeners out there, prepare yourself to be inspired. My guest took his side hustle, passion project, and with the grit, determination, and desire, turned his little sports network into a full-time gig. Welcome to the show, Angel Martinez, Riptide Media Network, in partnership with Broad Street South.
Hello, Sandy. Thank you so much for having me. Listen, first of all, let me tell everybody I'm excited. And Sandy knows I appreciate everything she's done, everything she continues to hustle to do. And that's just I could go on, but if I do, then people be like, oh my God, he's sucking up. No, it's not a suck up because Sandy knows her stuff and I absolutely love her. She knows that. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be on with you.
Well, I always love to tell people how I know our guests, and we actually met on Twitter. I know when I say this, people kind of roll their eyes, but y'all, your girl loves Twitter on very few days. There's a lot of bickering and all kinds of bad stuff on there, and nothing usually good follows when someone says, "I got a DM the other night," right? But this DM, I took a second look at, and this is where we are today. So Angel reached out to me, uh, didn't know me, didn't follow me, reached out to me on a private DM and said, hey, I forgot exactly what you said. You were like, hey, would you be on my podcast? And I went and checked you out, and I thought, okay, like, how scary can that be? It's not like he can reach through the computer. And I ended up going onto your show, and you're based out of Tampa, and just had a fantastic time. And we've just kind of become friends and buddies. And you've had me back on another time and have really supported my podcast, The Fifth Quarter, my other one. And so I just appreciate you. And so now the question I want to start this conversation off with
Okay.
is one I think that so many people think about, but are ultimately so scared, and many times so scared they don't even want to try it. What was that feeling like when you quit your full-time job, which I believe was recently, right?
Yes. Yep, it was recently. It is scary because you have no idea what's going to happen. And the reason why I ended up quitting it was because there was an opportunity that presented itself. I've always been a fan of Radio Row for many, many years.
Mhm.
And I had the opportunity of going there and cover the first Super Bowl ever in Vegas. And so the choice was I keep working for my former employer and having him not understand how big of a vision this could possibly be for myself, or tell him I'll be back in a week and then wait for him to scream at me, or just go ahead and say, you know what, this is great, but I got to achieve my own dreams. And so I told him, listen, thanks for playing, but I'm out. And he just looked at me like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, I got to follow what I believe is correct. And he didn't have bad choice words. I will say that way. But, it kind of really blew his mind. Like, so you're leaving the family? I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I went to Vegas, and Vegas kind
Okay,
of opened
okay.
up some more. Yeah.
Okay, time out really quickly. So, a couple of things because my audience on this one is probably not as much into sports. So, what is Radio Row in Vegas?
Okay. So Radio Row is when you have just about every sports station in America and internationally get an invite to come to Radio Row. And Radio Row is a combination of every network that's out there, including the TV outlets as well, and your ESPNs of the world, the
Right.
NFL. So your local radio station where you live, they have, like, for example, 97.5 The Fanatic in Philly and 94 WIP every year get an invite to come out there. And so you send a team of broadcasters and or a broadcaster, and then they go out and you talk about the events that are about to happen leading up to the Super Bowl.
Okay, so this was what, the week prior to the Super Bowl, or the week leading up to the Super Bowl?
Yep, the week leading up to the Super Bowl. So you get there on Saturday. Most of us usually get there on Saturday,
Okay,
and then we don't
okay.
leave till like
I
Monday.
keep interrupting you because I just want to make sure my listeners are fully aware. So, you got invited to go participate on Radio Row the
Yes.
week of the Super Bowl, leading up to the Super Bowl in Vegas with all these other medias. your little bitty network out of Tampa, Florida, you got invited.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want everybody to truly understand that. Okay, so you go to Vegas.
Yep. Go to Vegas, and when we get there, it's like I'm like a kid in a candy store, because we go, we check in, we go get our credentials, and matter of fact, it's behind me here as we're speaking, and it's something I'm
Right.
going to cherish in it forever. But the great part about it was we check in, and then we go inside. Now they're still setting up the venue, but they got, I would say, like 80% of it complete. And it's like one of those things, you can ask an athlete, like, what was it like to win this and that?
Right.
And I walk into the door, and it didn't hit me then, but I'm just kind of like taking it in. By that Wednesday, that's when everybody started coming in. So the other athletes, actors, actresses, you name it, everybody's there. And when I walked in, normally we would be the first ones there at 4:30 in the morning. This is now, Vegas time, which would be 7:30 on the East Coast. But we walk in, and about that Wednesday, when it finally started hitting me, like, this place is going to be a crazy mob scene today. And as the day progressed, and all these different people were stopping by and talking, right about 2:00 in the afternoon, like, I can't believe I'm actually doing something that I dreamed about for
right.
years and years and years. And I don't try to get emotional, but I will for a second. But
Okay, so I want you to take a breath, because and you're going to get, I didn't think we'd get emotional on this show, but I'm about to get emotional too. Because we've known each other. I went on your show last summer,
last
probably,
summer,
yeah, last summer.
yeah.
Okay, so let's rewind. Let's go back to, when did you get the idea that you wanted to have a little sports show?
So living in Philadelphia, I've had friends who've been on radio, and I've watched them grow and blossom. Some are still on, some have lost their jobs because of budget cuts.
Right.
And at the time, I was in a 12-year relationship, and it actually, I was supposed to start back in Philly. Because of the person I was with didn't believe that it could be done, and just thought, well, it's going to be like any other show here in the city of Philadelphia. And I said, well, no, that's not the case, but I have to start somewhere.
Sure.
So the relationship didn't end well, which also deterred me from doing what I love to do, to the point which I shared with you back in 2017. I was just going to end everything. That was going to be it for me.
Right.
And so finally I decided to move here to Tampa. And then it started coming back to me and saying, you know what, I somehow or another I can make this work. And I started running into people that were living here in the Tampa area that were originally from Philly.
Right.
So I thought, well, what if I start it and see what happens? Well, I started getting the idea the year before COVID. And so I would try and put things together, researching, learning as much as I possibly could. And then I go to launch, and the day I go to launch, which is supposed to be at a local bar and restaurant, COVID hits, and then everything stops. So I figured, well, I'm not going to stop, because regardless of whatever they do with COVID, I'll keep it going. So I launched it in April of the pandemic, April of that year.
2020, yeah.
Yes. And when I started it started with literally with one viewer up until my 5th episode. And on the 5th episode, it kept going from 5 to basically 900. To one point, we had up to 2,500 people live in one episode. And it just started building traction from that point. So it went from someone not believing in it to something that I knew there was something going on there. I just had to be creative with the name to bring Philly to Tampa without irritating the Tampa folks. And that's how Broad Street South, the name, became all available.
Okay, so I just want to break some things down. So when you say you decided to start it up, did you just do audio, or were you doing video, and were you broadcasting via the internet from the sports bar?
So funny you should say that, because someone wanted to coach me, and they said, and he was a friend of mine, but he wanted to coach me. He goes, dude, why do you want to do video first? Are you out of your mind? No, do the audio, because you'll find out if people actually like you enough on the audio to come back and hear it. Nope. So I went the polar opposite way, and I started doing it on video. And I'll probably have to send you the picture if you want to add it later on. But I figured, you know what? I'm just going to do it via video. So I did it via video. It was a crate that I used to put the laptop on top. My little keyboard.
I've done that before. Amazon boxes are awesome.
Yeah. And I have the microphone somewhere around here, the USB mic that I started with. It was $20. The whole thing cost me about $60 to put all together. Yeah. And I started with that. And I figured, okay, if I can if I can start on that behalf, I'll start adding a different element. So every year I kept adding a different element to keep growing the small network to try to make it bigger and get people's attention.
Okay, what do you mean define element?
So in order to, when you start with something, if you start with a video production, then you got to figure out, okay, what's the next best thing in the process? So the audio, I figured if enough people are watching the video, now I can add the audio to Amazon Music,
Oh,
to
I see what
and
you're saying.
everywhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. So I went that route, and I figured, okay, if people start listening there, then you know what, maybe I'm onto something. So within the 7th month, I want to say, I finally started learning, okay, here's how I can do these edits and everything else. And they weren't the best, Sandy. They were,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I totally like my first one was like I actually grabbed it from a Facebook Live and
Uh-huh.
just on a Friday night, I'm just like, I want to start a podcast. So yeah, I totally get that.
No, but it was fun because I ended up I did the audio, and the first one that I sent it to, I think it was Amazon, and Amazon accepted it. And then then I went to Spotify, iHeart, and other places. The hardest one, believe it or not, out of everybody was Panda. And Panda was very strict because they wanted to make sure you had to retain an audience up to a certain time, a certain amount.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
it was really difficult the first time with them, but they kept telling me like, no, you're not ready yet. And I'm like, yes, I am. And so I kept pushing the bar and kept saying, if these guys are my last obstacle to get through, I'm going to end up doing it. So finally I was able to get enough numbers in there and tell Panda, listen, you keep telling me no, I keep telling you yes. And eventually they saw the numbers and were like, how are you doing this? And no, that's not what you asked me. You said
That's
that I
right.
couldn't do it.
That's
And
right.
so I pushed hard enough, and now it's everywhere you get an audio download is where you can listen to everything that we end up doing. But the funny part was, here in Tampa, it wasn't very receptive at the very beginning, other than the Tampa folks that lived in Philly were here. But then, like everything else, it started to kind of spawn. And so it went from Tampa
Right.
down to Sarasota, from Sarasota across to Orlando, from Orlando to Jacksonville, and then down to Miami. So now I'm kind of getting the four corners, per
Sure.
se, here in Florida. And then it almost literally overnight, I happened to look, it could have been more than the 10th audio that I had, and it blew up nationwide to the point where I was amazed that people even wanted to listen to me out in California. And before I ended up taking a break, when I was growing my network and doing other things, here in the States, 48 out of the 50 states started listening in on the show. So not only did I have the viewership, but I had the audio people listening in as well.
Okay, so a timeout again because
Mhm.
I love your enthusiasm. I just don't want to lose everybody. So when you started out, did you script the show? And what were you talking about specifically? Like obviously it was sports, but what were you talking? And did you script it? And what did you talk about?
So to this day, which is the honest God's truth, there is nothing scripted.
Yeah, I hate scripts. I really
Yeah,
do.
it's not worth it, because even if you write something down, it's never going to be exactly what you're talking about. So,
Sure.
which is ironic. Jeff Defoe DeForest, who is a legendary broadcaster in Miami, has been around for 40 plus years, doing Miami broadcasts. We just actually launched a show this week called Martinez and Defoe Not Scripted. And even Defoe was like, why did you call it unscripted? I said, think about it. Have I sent you anything, any thought ideas,
That's right.
or anything else?
Right.
He was like, no. And that's the reason why. So yeah, when I started everything, it was never a script from the very beginning. When the guests come on, just like when you came on,
Right.
there was no questions. Whatever is being processed in this thing called the brain,
Right.
when it comes out, that's how I get the questions. And then what ends up happening is, when the person I'm doing a conversation or interviewing with, when they say something, I grab a piece of that information, throw it in the back of the
Sure.
brain, just like a
Right.
Rolodex, and then
Right.
that's how the next one gets populated. So yeah, that's how it's never been scripted. I will never script anything, because if I need to, it takes away the fun element. It's better to keep everyone on toes, including myself.
I agree. So those early days, you were still working a full-time job, correct?
Yes.
And what was your full-time job?
So in the beginning, when I started the company, I was working for the school district. So for here in Pasco County.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I started with the school district. Because when I moved from Philly, I moved down here, and I was in the process of looking for a job because I didn't have one. I
Right.
basically cold turkey moved down here. And so at the time, the school district was hiring. So I went to the school district. Well, what happened was that as the business started taking off and I started telling my boss, listen, there's a certain time, like I'm supposed to work. My normal schedule was from 7:30 till 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Right.
There were times where they would end up keeping me over and I had a set schedule because I already had people lined up that I
Sure.
wanted to interview. And so he kept saying, yeah, but Angel, you know so much stuff and I really need you here and everything else. And I said, okay, that's all fine and wonderful, but I also have a life away from this
That's right.
place.
That's
And
right.
so I ended up leaving there 4 years after I was in with the school board. I think it was about 4 years in. And then when I left, I I pretty much thought, okay, what's my next move here? So I ended up actually working for a pretzel factory out of all things. But it was fun because then I could adjust my times. But like everything else, once he got used to me, my hours then were supposed to be from 9 till I want to say about 3:30ish, 4.
Sure.
But as I started learning more and more about the business, more and more responsibilities got added to me to the
Yeah.
point just before I quit going to Vegas, I started going in at 4:45 in the morning and wasn't leaving until about 5:45, 6 o'clock ish at nighttime. And so it just added too many hours in the day and not being able to utilize what I normally do.
I hear I listen, and I've gotten feedback from a lot of people out there, and they get into I was just having a conversation with one of my coaching clients a few weeks ago. He started this new job and he wanted to like give his all to it. And he was leaving work at like 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, you can't keep going like that.
Mhm.
And he's like, but I want to do a good job. And I said, but you're cutting into your time with your wife. And I said, what's going to happen when they come to you and say, hey, we want to give you a raise and they want you to take on more responsibility? You've already given so much of yourself that you're not getting overtime for. So, what would you say to people out there about, or maybe how did you handle that conversation with your boss about, hey, I've got this set time that I need to have for work, and then I have this set time for myself? Because I'd made the question when we first met that when do you sleep? Because that has to take a toll on your body and
Yeah.
on your health and just everything. So what was that whole process like for you to try to get some grasp on boundaries? I think is a good way of talking about that.
Yeah, no, the tough part was when once I started noticing that once I came home, it's an 8 to 10 hour process of everything you do with your own business,
Right.
including the 8 to 10 to 12 hour day I was already having at work, not including the time I get up in the morning. Because the first thing was I was up at 3:30 in the morning. And a lot of that was to get whatever invites I had to send for my guests. I had to make sure they got them. And I would
Right.
check things, make sure I got myself updated before I walked out the door. So once it started getting to the point where the pressure from the work because of the reliability, everybody depending upon you was one. And then also the pressure you're putting upon yourself because you're trying to make
Sure.
your actual job here within your own studio and your own business, make it work. It became a clashing point to the point now where I was getting easily frustrated, but not take it out on anybody just intensely because
Right.
I'm fighting with myself saying that how can you keep doing this at this rate of a pace without losing your mind? And unfortunately, what I started losing first was the hair. It's thinning out. But so I try. I don't spray it or anything else. I just kind of hope that it doesn't fall all together. But it came down to the point where I said to my boss, you got to understand something. Like, you own this business. This is what you do. I own a business.
Right.
The difference is you have many more people that you're responsible for. I'm responsible for myself for all intents purposes. But at the same time, too, I have other people that I'm reaching out to, and I have to make sure that whatever commitment and promise I made to them, I have to come through. So the scariest part was to figure out how can I make this all work and still have funding for myself where I don't lose my car, don't lose a
Right.
house, don't lose your
Exactly.
mind or anything else.
Yeah.
And so that was the scariest part because when I came back from Vegas, I want to say about the second weekend, I thought, boy, this is great because now I can get everything that I wanted done in a timely manner, even though I knew it would still be a full day's worth of work.
Right.
But of course, then the pay comes in. And even though there was things that I knew that were bound to come in, I had to make that immediate judgment call and just say, I'm fully vested in myself now and in my company to be able to now grow a partnership with other people. And so that was a tough part. When your body starts telling you, you either need to slow it down or I'm going to slow it down for you, there's a big problem there.
So, a big part of what you do is obviously networking, how to get new guests, how to get, the opportunities like Vegas. What were some of the methods or some of the mindset you went through to start that networking early on?
The easiest way to probably say it was I winged it originally. And it was just sending out invites and just talking to people and just saying, hey, I just started a small company and it'd be great to have you on. And so I would try to use the Philly connection, but also throwing in pieces of what's beautiful here in Florida, the beaches, palm trees. And only one person has said no to me. And the only reason why they said no is because of the conflict as far as the scheduling. But what I used to get originally was, but I don't know who you are. I'm like, yeah, but if you come on, then you know who I am.
I didn't know who you were.
Right.
And I figure, what's the worst thing? I just hit the disconnect button. I mean, it's not like you can reach through. It's not like I'm going into your house or something.
Right.
And I feel the same way. A lot of times I have to stop myself because I'll see something or somebody will pop up on LinkedIn and I'll look at that and then I'll see their profile and then something else. And then like 30 minutes later, I've like got all these guest ideas of people I can have on the show. And I'm like, I got to stop this and go do something else right now. And I get a little, too excited about it. How did you start networking in the Tampa area in person to get opportunities?
So what I was doing in the Tampa region, and speaking of, someone had as they made the appointment here, I want to make sure that I get back to them. Yeah,
this is unscripted for sure. Right now, he's got to respond. That's good customer service.
Yeah, that's when it's the funny part is, well, now that I have the show during the day as well, the tougher part is as I'm reaching out to other people, and I'll get to the networking here for a second. But as right now, for example, if I put my camera up here for everybody to see, I'll be in the middle of the show. And as the host is talking, because he's the co-host, I have people either ringing the phone or sending me messages or emails. So now it's the multitask of things going on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so that's the big thing. I want to make sure I don't run wrong.
Well, you do that and I'll just keep talking.
Sure.
For me, I don't have that issue. I just put on do not disturb and everybody's like, I'm so afraid I'm going to interrupt your podcast. I'm like, trust me, I'm going to make sure you don't. I turn all my notifications and everything off. And it's, that's a big part, no matter what your business is, whether it's what you're doing, whether it's, a cookie company or real estate or whatever, getting back to your customers as soon as possible is a great way to build up that trust and keep that brand of whatever, your personality and your reputation going. So let's talk about, how did you get in? What were some of the things early on that you did in Tampa to start networking in person with people?
So what I would do is I would reach out to them via social media at first. I would kind of take a look and see what they're about and their business and how that could connect with what I was doing. And so usually the person will reach out, and I think I got more no's than I ever did yes. So I figured, okay, I went up on you. I know where your business is. I'll just go to your business. So I went to the business and I said, hey, how would you feel if like some radio station decided to come up and talk to you and talk about like your business? And, oh, that's great. That's wonderful. So, okay, hold on. All right, now I got your attention. Okay, so let's just say if this particular station, or let's just say podcast or whatever else, if they really didn't have a massive following, but they are heard internationally, which will give you a better objective as far as how much the outreach will end up being with your business. And the person would say, that's fantastic. How can I do this? How can I sign up? So wait, I got one more thing. Okay. So let's just say the person reaches out to you on social media, right? Just by sheer coincidence, they reach out to you on social media. What would you say then? I would say out of the first, I'm just going to put 10 people in first. 9 out of 10 were like, uh, wait, ask that question again. It's, okay, right. And let's just say it's just me, right? Here, pick up your phone. All right, I send you this message. Now, mind you, the way I did it was, okay, let's say I'm sending you this message and I hit send, and what do you get? And the person's looking at their phone and they look back at me. I'm like, wait, you're that guy? I'm like, yeah, I'm that guy.
I'm
I'm
that
that guy.
guy. I'm
Yeah.
that guy. I'm that guy. What was early on, besides, not making money, what was the scariest thing for you?
Giving up. And because not knowing the industry as well, even though I knew through friends of mine, but not being able to do it yourself and trying to carry your own weight and make something happen. Because again, a lot of no's are thrown in front of you than
Sure.
yeses. It doesn't
Right.
start coming until you start believing in yourself and start saying, okay, I can do this. This is going to be a brand name, and it's going to eventually be a household name, to the point where even people I dealt with before in the past might start reaching out because of when I told them before an idea that I had and they told me no. um, it was those doors that kept closing that I figured out. One, I just need that one to
Right.
open and make
Right.
make it happen so I can make it through the door. I opened the door and I could see
That's
everything.
right.
I just didn't
That's
walk
right.
through it. So the big thing was you have to believe whatever you do in life, because life is about choices.
Mm-hmm. It
You have to
is.
make that choice and say, if I'm going to do this, I need to believe in myself. And mind you, also which I'm about to turn 54 here very, very soon.
I am older than you.
No, you're not. You say that, but you're not. But you're not. But no, the big thing is that you're competing with a lot of these social media influencers, which
Mm-hmm.
just started coming really kind of together within the last 2 or 3 years. When I first started, it was, how do I surpass all these younger people and stuff that they're doing, and what can be my angle to figure out how can I connect with everybody. So as I was networking with people and figuring out how I'm going to make this business work, that's when the variation in age I had to work with, that buffer became bigger. And
Right.
that's when that door finally opened and I can get the different people to network from young to older, then that's when things start coming together. But when you're not doing it and you're funding your own self, that's even harder because you have bills to pay. In
Right.
order to do what you're doing and building a brand and a business, it takes money. Nothing is free. Nothing's ever
That's
handed
right.
to me. And so that was the other challenging part, because I had to have the full-time job to make sure I'm going to build up what I'm in the building up today. And I'm still not done building at that point. But that was the bigger part, because it's the challenge where the money comes into play. Because none of us, that at least that I know of, the connections that I have, maybe one or two, but that's because they've done something on their own. But no one's opening up a wallet, including the two people that I know, and saying,
Right.
here's a bunch of money, make it work. No, it's one of those things that you have to super challenge yourself and figure out, how can I just get a couple of dollars from people to sponsor,
Sure.
to help build. So you have to, when you make that leap, you have to know just with the utmost confidence that, okay, I'm taking a major leap here and going away from what I know is guaranteed income and guaranteed benefits, to say the
Yes.
only way this is going to work is by me putting in this work full time. And even though you would think that the hours, as far as when I used to say before, I didn't have enough hours in a day
That's
because of
right.
work.
That's
Yeah,
right.
well, now I have none because it's a full day process.
It is. It is. I heard something. I was listening to a podcast last week and they talked about how um the best times of their business life was when, or the most success they had was when they were obsessed about a specific thing. And when they were obsessed about a specific thing, they had tremendous success. And it was kind of enlightening for me because I've been on a kind of an up and not an up and down, but I've kind of been on a plateau probably the past year. I knew what I kind of wanted, but I, and when I listened to this, I was like, you're right. When I started my photography business, I was obsessed with photography. When I started doing social media coaching and marketing, I was obsessed with that. And I think that for me, I realized I'm not obsessed. with any specific thing right now. So how do you feel about that? Was it an obsession for you that kind of fueled that success?
A little bit of that, I think, mostly because of things that happened in the past where it was the knowing what you wanted to do, but having someone else tell you you can't do it. That
Oh,
was the
yes.
big one. And I think especially like listen, everybody goes through any kind of relationship and we hope the best and the best for everyone. You know,
Right,
we
right,
everybody's been through highs and lows. When I started believing in what I can possibly do in the outreach and the people I can help, because all my life I've been helping people. And if anybody
right,
that, as you've gotten to know me and other people, I always use the word I try because that's
right.
the only thing I can do. I can try. And so to be able to be obsessed with making this work meant that I knew I had to have, and not because I'm a Gemini, but you had to have that multiple personality where on this side that we see in the movies where you hear the person saying, listen, you're fine, don't worry about a thing. But on this side, it's telling you, no, 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 you're not fine. Let's keep it going.
That's right.
And so that's the motivational drive every single day because I figure, okay, I set a goal for this year. Now I'm working for the goal for next year, but it's not next year. It's the next day to the next year
Right,
where now I start working
right.
on stuff. So the obsession works a little bit into it. The bigger part is because of the people that hopefully you think that believe in you and the people that you hope to come across that believe in what you're doing. And so in the back of my mind, every single time, even when I go live Monday through Friday, it's always like, who am I going to lose? Why did I lose that person? And so those questions come in as the success also builds at the same time, because you want to make sure that once you build a product, you got to figure out how to add more people and pieces to that product
Right,
and make that person believe in you. So the obsession is the hard work, the taking
right.
the word no for not the ultimate answer. The only reason it should be no is because unfortunately a person passed away yesterday and well, they can't make a decision for
That's
you
right.
anymore. But other than that, yeah, the obsession is with the word no. And that's what drives me the most.
That's very true because as much as the business is you or me or somebody else, the relationships you have with everybody in your life do play some type of role in that. How do you manage let me go back. So when I first started my photography business, I had a friend who would call me and she'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm working." And she says, "Oh, did you get a job?" And I was like, "I have a job, my photography business. I'm trying to get off the ground." And maybe that goes into that hearing those no's, but did you have other than the relationship you talked about in Philly, did you have people in Tampa that kind of were kind of not putting you down, but kind of being negative nillies is like I like to call them negative nillies. Did you have that negativity and how did you handle that or how did you deal with that?
Okay, I'll give you I'll give you one correct answer, and then I'll give you the answer exactly what I told the person. So, and it's unless you drive me to the point of okay, now I just there's a way to shut you up. It may not be the most political correct way to do so,
Right.
but what ended up happening was as I got things going. This is when at the district because I was in the district at the time as
Right.
got things going. So there was a gentleman. I'll keep his name out of there, even though he knows to this day that he drives me bananas. But he said, so let me get this straight, Martinez. You decided to venture out and do this thing, and you somehow are getting these guests, and they have no idea who the hell you are. But the women come on your show, and you're always like, oh, I'm so happy of what you've done in your life, this, that, and the other. So I said, well, wait a minute, hold on. So you're upset because is it because the women are coming on to the show, or is it because I'm making sure that I'm acknowledging what they've accomplished in their life? He goes, yeah, but it's the way it's different when you're talking to a man. It's like, hey, genius. Okay, here we go. All right. So you want me to say something, what, like in very low key, like, I'm so happy that you've done what you've done. I said, dude, do you understand it sounds creepy, dumb dumb?
It does
So
sound creepy.
yeah. So the way I tell them is that when anybody who knows me, I'm full of ton of energy. And if
Yes,
I'm
you
going to
are.
come across to you, it's because of the things that you've done that have impressed me enough that I want to make sure everybody knows how I feel so that other people can get that same type of energy and say, wow, how in the world did that happen? So this one time I had one of the reporters on from Philly. She would never do any shows away from radio. But I convinced her, I said, listen, I'm not your average guy. I said, if you don't believe me, I got Sandy can tell you how I slid up in her DMs and she will be the first one to tell you. And her first message back to me was like, who's Sandy? That's neither here nor there.
Wait, are you serious? You
Yeah.
said that to her?
Yeah. No, seriously. So she said, who's Sandy? I'm like, listen, I will share the only way you're going to find out who she is if you say yes to me, I'll let you know who Sandy is. And she's like, okay. So we went back and forth and she said, so why should I go on with you? I said, because I'm motivated, just like you are, right? You came from nowhere and you build a name for yourself, you build a brand for yourself. And now we can find that moment to connect and do stuff. And she said, all right, you know what? I'll give you 10 minutes. I said, okay, it's going to turn to 15, but you can call it 10. So I finally actually sent her your profile from Twitter and said, now, if you think I was kidding, look, this is the lady who I slid into her DMs. And she looked. Now, I didn't show her like the original like message. Like I cut it off, but she was like, no way. And she came on your show. I was like, yeah. I said, so if you think I'm sliding into your DMs because I want something from you, no. It's because there's a connection that was there. And that's why I slid into your DM.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I feel so famous now. Okay. That's kind of cool. You kind of got me a little flustered there. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I do.
Well deserved.
Do you want to give her a shout out?
I could, but because I could.
Okay.
Good reporter out of Philly, but because I haven't said anything to her, and I don't want her to
that's
feel
okay. That's okay. Yeah. We won't do that. Okay. So let's kind of start wrapping this up a little bit, but during all of this, you started during COVID and you do like before you went full time the past few weeks or back when the couple of months ago, how many shows were you putting out a week?
Before I went, so when I started with another network in October, it was 5 days a week. After October, prior to that, I was doing about 3 to maybe 4 episodes on my podcast a week. And then it became 5 days a week. After Vegas and the in-between, as I was helping the other network now come about, which I'm partnerships with, then it became first the executive producer of the network for them, along with doing it for my own self, then to being the co-host with the morning show guy that's on from 7 to 10 a.m., which is Pete Shepard. And then it came to, okay, well, Martinez and Company is no longer on. What are you doing now? So, well, let me reach out to Defo and see what he wants to do. And then Defo and I go on into this venture. So now my day starts at 4:30 in the morning. The last show that I'm involved with is at 12 in the afternoon. But then there's another show that comes on from 12 to 1, and usually I'm doing the audio production for them. So I end up getting my break in between, I would say like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and then the evening show starts. But to add on top of that, this week, which I got word was, I am going to be the Spanish play-by-play announcer for the Orlando Predators that are coming back.
I heard that. I saw your...
Yeah, they're coming back to the Arena Football League. And so the AFL was impressed along with the Orlando Predators on how I was able to get myself in with them through networking. Right. And because of that, I'm doing the Spanish play-by-play. But the owner called me yesterday and he says, Angel, I just want to let you know, you're not doing just the home games. You're doing the home and away games for us. So that was dropped on me yesterday, which I was completely blown away because I didn't think I was doing both. But yeah, so not only do I have to, amongst everything else that I'm doing, is also cram in a couple of days, states, history, all this stuff, rosters, the whole 9 yards to get it ready for the Saturday broadcast. And on top of also working with BJ Daniels out of USF, as him and I are now having a conversation. Well, we already had one earlier, but now every week leading up into the USF start of the season, him and I are going to be getting together and talking about all kinds of stuff. So work never stops, and it's driving me bananas, but I love it because that's what I do.
So USF, because this is probably a non-sports related audience, that's University of South Florida.
Yes.
That brings up a good question because there's going to come a point when you need to hire people to help you.
Yeah.
Because you cannot be, especially if it's audio production, you can't necessarily be every single point of the day. Have you started thinking about that? Like,
I
what?
started, yep. I started thinking about it, and I'm hoping to maybe connect with either Tampa University or
That's a good
University
one.
of South Florida, and see if I can get where interns towards a
Yes.
credit towards their
Yes.
degree is to do it that way, because it has gotten to the point now where I don't stop until about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And even though I know that the body says, okay, let's shut it down, the brain was like, no, 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 hold on for a second.
That's
We can
right.
squeeze
That's
in
right.
one more thing.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to kind of unwind from that, but it's impossible. When you know what the end goal is, it's impossible for you just to say, I'm shutting it down for a night.
That's right.
It doesn't work that way with me.
There's some nights I just wish I could shut my brain off because it
Mm-hmm.
just won't stop. But for any of you out there that are at a point in your business where you need to hire, you talked about the internships, and I think that that's a great opportunity, for you, especially the journalism department at USF. That's a great opportunity for all of those kids. They need to have experience. And I think that, especially for you or for them, being able to see someone who has taken this passion and done it with basically you weren't invited to a table and you built your own damn table, which I've talked about before. I'm just build your own table and just do it. And I think that that is something that these young people in college don't necessarily get in the classroom, is that if you can't get the experience, figure out how you can get the experience,
Yeah.
even if that's doing it yourself. I had a coaching client that he really, really wanted to start. He loves sports, loves sports. He's in Houston. And I said, just start your own show. And he's too scared to do it. And a person has to have, I think for people that go and start something on their own, they have to have that passion like you did and I have. You have to have that passion, a little bit of that obsession, the fact that you're going to do it scared regardless.
Yeah.
And not everybody out there has that. What would you say to that person that has it in them to do something, but maybe they just don't think anyone wants to hear what they have to say? And it may not even be a podcast. What would you say to people like that person out there right now? What would you say to them about doing something that they're scared to do?
So if you take yourself and everybody has a mirror in their house somewhere, but take the longest stand-up mirror that you have. And if you don't, build yourself one. Look in the mirror. And as you're looking in the mirror, look what's in the mirror, right? Because you're watching a reflection, not only of yourself, but what's behind you. So if you like what's going on behind you, then keep looking back, because what you should be doing is looking through the mirror and saying what's on the other side. Because once the mirror is hung up on the wall or somewhere else, we can't see that. The way we see it is if we take it off and we look behind it, correct?
Right.
So look past that mirror and figure out, okay, how could I make this work? And for every time you approach someone, go out in the public, just randomly, just walk up to a person and just say hello to them. If they are able to say hello back to you, just think of something randomly real quick and see if you can spark that conversation for over a minute, regardless of what you look like, your ethnicity, none of that stuff. If you can attain that person's attention for a minute without bringing anything other than life, then okay, if I grab their attention, I can do this as well. You have to always think, yes, I'm going to be scared. It's going to be terrifying. I don't know where this is going to get me. Do I fail? Because that is going to be a part of the process. You're going to feel that, man, I didn't get any impressions off of this, or I didn't do that. You got to stop looking in that mirror and worrying about what's behind you, because you got to look beyond that mirror and figure out what is out there. That, yes, there's 50 million other people that could be doing the same thing, but what do I have that's completely different from what something's doing? And if you don't believe me, the perfect example is the person behind the other side of the camera that I'm looking at, which is Sandy, because Sandy, when I came across to her, it was the same way. When I slid up, and I'm going to keep saying this, when I slid into her DMs, is because her and I had zero connection other than when she came on my show, and then we build that connection and we build that network. And to the point now where we have become really good friends. And the reason is because I had to find a way to talk to Sandy and bring Sandy out of her own self to be able to say, okay, what do we have in common and how can we help each other out? So
Right.
my mirror pass of what I look in the wall is looking at you on the other side of the screen here, because I'm honored with everything that you've done and how you continue to build yourself up, regardless of whatever anybody would ever think about you, whatever ever happened in your past, because Sandy, the person, is going to be heard by other people, regardless of whatever doors, whatever things that are out there, that there's an obstacle. Every obstacle that comes your way, you can find a way over it, not around it, over it. Sandy, and that's who you are, because for the time that I've known you, you have put your best foot forward. You've never said anything no to me, for that matter, that I believe in. And there may not be people that may not believe in you, but I know sure as hell that I do. And you are a part of my network, as you know, because I run your shows on it. But you have something that other people don't have, and that's that grit and determination, because whatever has happened in your past, there's a reason why you and I are here today that we're talking about this, because people need to understand how hard you have worked and what you've believed in. And that is, I want people to understand this. This is not scripted. There's no scripts in front of me. None of that fun stuff. Yeah. This is because how much I believe in Sandy. And I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe her that much. But Sandy, you have been an example. And the reason why I got to put it somewhere up here. I got to put your picture in the DM that I put up there, so people can see when they come into the studio, like, who's that? Let me tell you the story. But you are, Sandy. You are very unique. I don't think I've ever seen you to the point where you would want to reject someone because of whatever situation is. You take the time to actually listen to somebody, as long as they don't rub you the wrong way. But you are very determined in what you're doing, and people are going to come to find out very shortly, in my opinion, exactly who you are and why they didn't jump on the opportunity to have and build something with you.
I appreciate you so much. And for all of you out there, I have my bad days too. As an entrepreneur, self-motivation is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you have to learn. And I think I needed to hear that too, as much as anything else today. And I appreciate you saying that, and no, it's not scripted. And for any of you out there, just know that whether or not you realize people are watching you, they're watching you. They just may not say anything.
Yep.
So, okay, we're going to wrap this up. For any of you out there that want to find out more about Angel Martinez and Broad Street South and his network that he's partnershiped with, where can they find you? What is the main website, or where's the main location to go and find out your shows and how
So
they
the
can?
main website is broadstsouth.com. I didn't put street in there because I just thought, I'm going to make it unique. So I put broadstsouth.com. All the show lineups, the things that I'm doing soon with the Orlando Predators, which is going to be the home. I'm excited about it. The home of Orlando Predators radio will be at Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game. And that's a major, major accomplishment. Next stop, AFL, if you're listening. It may end up being the next one, but yeah, broadstsouth.com. All my social medias are up there as well, which makes it easier. Twitter is my favorite go-to. I'll never call it X.
It is.
Yep. It's my favorite go-to, and it's always been my go-to from the very beginning. But yeah, broadstsouth.com. You guys can reach out, and I'm always open to a conversation.
I've watched you. I don't, you do a live stream on LinkedIn every day as well, Monday through Friday. And I've been, I see you and I try to interact with even if it's just a like. I try to do something, even if it's just a little bit. But I'm so excited to see where this is going, and to see, all of the success that you have coming in the future that you don't even know about yet. I'm so excited about that. And just thank you so very much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. I believe I'm honored. This is awesome.
And for all of you out there, I'll put all of his information in the show notes, and hopefully you'll go follow him, and hopefully he has inspired each and every one of you to, whatever that passion is, to go out and just try. Don't live with regret.
Yep.
Just try something. Try it, and whatever whatever you do, learn from it and try again. It's all you can do. So anyway, thank you so much for having me on for having me on the show. Thank you so much for being on my show today.
You're welcome, Sandy.